Welcome to a new episode of the Chicago Game Entrepreneur Show. This is number 19.
Episode 19.
We are so close to 20. Because 10s are important, right?
Yes.
For some reason.
25 increments of 25 as well.
Yes. So we are the big almost milestone.
Yeah.
We'll do 1 minute to mention our sponsors. The first is InnoPrints, inoprints.com, for all your printing needs. And we actually got new business card designs, so I think we'll be probably using our own discount code to print new business cards. And then
you don't have an in? You don't know somebody? Can we get these pro bono?
We'll see. But for everyone else, the code on innoprints.com is CGS to get 15% off your first order. And then our friend Marty over at, and I always say it wrong, so I'm just going to kick it over to Rob for this.
It's Ledger General.
Yes, so I always say it the wrong way, but yes, Ledger General for all your accounting needs.
Yes.
You're running a small business. You don't need to have the added burden of doing your own taxes. Let a certified professional at Ledger General handle all your accounting needs.
Yeah.
He does
He's
Rob's,
really
he
good.
does mine, so.
Yeah. And he has his cool little blog, Pocket Marty.
Yes, so for small business inquiries and questions, check out pocketmarty.com. And our guest today.
Yes. Who has many hats.
All the hats. Hello,
Yeah.
Internet. My name is Ross Hersemann. I'm a video game lawyer. You may know me as the organizer of the Chicago Video Game Law Summit or the founder of loadinglaw.com. If those don't ring a bell, I'm also the board president of the VGA Gallery and the secretary of IGA Chicago.
So we have a lot to discuss, but
We do.
I think we were thinking that this might be our first kind of law-focused
Sure.
podcast, just to do the law 101 of running your own
We'll probably
game
touch
company.
on all of your...
Yeah, we will. We'll definitely
Okay, so
touch on
we'll dive
everything,
into
but-
everything from a legal, just games, Chicago perspective.
Yeah. I mean...
So,
Okay, well, hit me with it. What do
something
you got?
we try to sort of focus on in this podcast is like people who are trying to make it in the games business. How do they not starve, right?
Mhm.
So I think law plays a big part in that. There's a lot of ways to fail. Tons of dumb ways to die as a game entrepreneur or game entrepreneur, as is the title of this show. And
yeah, what are kind of the big things you gotta avoid that are just gonna like kill you outright, right?
So things to avoid. Well, it's a loaded question because, just like in any business, there's all kinds of developers. There's all kinds of entrepreneurs. So you have independent game developers, you have employees in AAA studios, and all of them, while they're all very creative and all making art, have very different processes to what they're doing.
So why don't we talk about like if you're starting your own business, because I think that's what we mostly talk about, and then maybe also talk about if you're an independent contractor.
Sure. Well, most of my clients, when they come to me, they put together a team of other creative people. They have an idea for a game, and they want to put it together. And usually, their first priority
sound like
is,
you?
Might be. Usually, their first priority is they want to find a way to fund the game, and they want to insulate themselves from liabilities, both financial ones and legal ones. So usually the first step, once they get their team together, is to try and form some kind of corporate entity. That can take a form of either an LLC, which is the most common, it's a limited liability corporation, or also a S corporation, like a traditional, more corporate entity. So the purpose of that is
both of those are passed through, right?
Yes, yeah. So the purpose of that is to insulate yourself from personal liability. So when you're putting together a company and you're putting together a team, what you want to do is separate your personal assets from your business assets. So if the worst should happen and your business is not a success, when the creditor man comes calling, he's going for your business's assets and not your own. You want to find a way to keep your personal investments, your personal credit, your personal, actual checking account away from your business. Also, it helps clarify your relationship with your partners, with your team, so that if someone has to leave the team, if you're bringing new people into the team, you have a very clear agreement over who owns what, who's contributed how much time, if they're leaving, what they're bringing with them, because one of the biggest problems with small independent developers, and also one of their greatest strengths, is they rely on very good friendships. No one goes into a business thinking that it's going to fail. So a lot of times people don't make they don't make plans, they don't take the necessary precautions to protect themselves from if they get into a personal, a difference of opinion, a non-meeting of the minds where someone needs to leave a project. And you want to know who owns your IP at that point. You want to know who has all of the bank accounts in their name. You want to know if you're leaving the project, what you can bring with you and what you can't. And putting all of that in paper at an early stage is always the best place to start.
Gotcha. So what was your recommendation in terms of if me and Rob and a couple other guys are starting a company, should we do an LLC or S corp?
Ooh, my recommendation is always, without giving any legal advice, this is legal information. For all of you out in the internet.
Disclaimer.
A lawyer is what we do. Disclaimers are very important. I will say that there are many advantages to an LLC, and one of the biggest advantages is how easy it is to alter the formation of an LLC. So when you file, I'll talk about Illinois since we're in Illinois, and it may vary state to state, but in Illinois, you have to file for your LLC with the Secretary of State, and that comes with a fee and some basic information. You have to say who the members of the LLC are, you have to say who your agent is, basically the point man who receives all of your mail, and you have to say what the purpose of your business is. In Illinois, it can be something as simple as a business that is practicing legal business in Illinois. It can be something very simple, but you have to give some basic information to the Secretary of State so that you can get some other basic information. So if you want to file for federal tax ID, for example, having an LLC helps you do that.
Can you turn off this thing, Q-on?
Just
unplug that white thing.
Yeah, I was going to turn all the lights off. So.
There we go.
We have to focus.
That's going to make the sound way better.
But the main advantage of an LLC, besides that process, which is very simple, it's a lot simpler than a traditional corporation for tax reasons, is how easy it is to change the organization of the LLC. So if you have new members coming in, members leaving, if you want to change your address, if you want to relocate to another state, or if you want to upgrade your LLC to a corporation, it's much easier to start with an LLC and kind of rank up instead of the other way around.
Gotcha. Is there any benefit, like just as myself, Q-on Hong, to have an LLC as opposed to just do business as an individual?
For sure. Doing business as an individual
liability insulation
has some stronger.
Yeah.
Yes. So an LLC is all of those things, but more so. So liability insulation and keeping your finances separate. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. Keep it separate.
Who is most likely to sue me?
Who is most likely for what? What are you doing, Bobby?
Rob, what are you doing at night?
I'm only a video game lawyer. I'm not a criminal lawyer. I can't save you from everything.
No, but like as a video games company.
As a video game company, who's going to come for you? It could be any number of things, any number of disputes. Something that's very common is trolls of the internet. And they come in many different flavors. We have patent trolls, copyright trolls, trademark trolls, and it could be as simple as the name of your cool business. Bobby Locks Incorporated is the name of another company in Canada, and they're expanding into the United States. They see that you have a name similar to theirs or identical to theirs, and they don't want you to have that name. So all of a sudden you're getting a letter saying that you not only have to change the name of your company, but you also owe them money in retribution. So
that's a trademark
issue.
But to establish the trademark, you just have to have sold something basically under that name, right?
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that, but yes, that's generally a good first step.
But you recommend filing with the PTO, right?
Right. So copyrights, you don't need technically to register a copyright. As soon as you make something, it qualifies for copyright, because a copyright is just an original work of authorship fixed in a tangible medium of expression. That could mean any number of things.
The guy talking at the end of the pharmaceutical commercial, like level of speed.
Yeah, you might have
go over that again.
An original work of authorship fixed in a tangible medium of expression. What that means is you've made something new. You've made it yourself. You are the author, and it's fixed or permanent and reproducible somehow. So if you sing a song to me right now, and if we weren't recording, that might not be eligible for copyright because it isn't fixed anywhere. It has to be reproducible. So copyright can extend to any number of things in games. The copy part is very important. So the art assets, the music in your game, the any kind of artistic element to it that you can think of. So pictures, video, the written words, the written dialogue, all of that qualifies for copyright. And that's very separate from the ideas that make a game function.
And the code itself, right, is also...
The code itself, potentially. Not only the code, but also the expression of the code. There's many different ways to copyright elements of your game. When it comes to the code, it's more beneficial to copyright the end result, so what the code is actually making, because there's infinite ways to define a variable in code. So copyrighting a particular piece of code you write might not be very helpful, because someone can work around it, someone can reproduce it a different way. You want to copyright the end result of what you're making, so the art that code is creating. So, but yes, there are advantages. Excuse me, to registering your copyright. And basically, the reason for that is, one, you're creating a timestamp of when something is created, because when copyright litigation occurs, you have to establish who made something when. That's usually one of the biggest turning points to copyright legislation, is who made it first. And having a registration helps you do that. Also, it's an actual requirement for litigation. If you are trying to sue someone for copyright infringement of your work, you have to have a registered registered copyright to do it.
Yeah.
So for someone like, if I was going to do like a Kickstarter campaign or something, is there anything I need to do kind of in advance to protect myself, or is that campaign launched under my name enough to kind of protect me and prove that this was my idea first?
It helps, but it doesn't technically prove anything.
Okay.
So I wish that I could tell all the game developers out there that there's a very neat place to start legally protecting yourself, but it's kind of a bramble bush. There are many different places you can start, but as a game developer or as any creative person making anything, you have to make content first, and then everything comes after that. And it is always reasonable to let your protections grow with the work that you're making. So if you're making a Kickstarter and you're putting your information out there, it would be smart to have a bank account to put the money in, for example. So if you don't want that to be your personal account, it would be good to have a federal tax ID, and having a federal tax ID necessitates some kind of corporate entity. So having an LLC or an S Corp before you do a Kickstarter would be a smart idea, just because it makes for less trouble down the road. You don't want to have a conversation with your accountant over what is your personal income and what is your business's income, because you've shared the same checking account. It's kind of all about making your life easier down the road.
Gotcha. Good to know. Speaking of Kickstarter, some interesting legal ramifications coming up recently in terms of, if I give money to a Kickstarter, what
am I entitled to?
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
It's
any comments on that?
It is varying state to state,
Okay.
And changing rapidly all of the time, because I hate to say this, the law is very far behind the technology that drives the games industry. Regulating the innovative
if
ways.
making new laws were as easy as making software, we'd all be in trouble. Software is written really badly, generally.
Laws are too, more often than not, and that's some of the problems that we're getting with Kickstarter. But any kind of, and I don't want to pick on Kickstarter, so I'll just say generally, crowdfunding can legally be very problematic, because what you have is someone making a promise to create a particular thing, and not necessarily soliciting, but inviting donations from people that they may exchange for some kind of perk, some kind of reward, whether that's a t-shirt or a copy of the game or a copy of the art or inclusion in the game. Can get very complicated. A very common reward is saying, we'll include your picture in our game, in our art, we'll include your name, you can help plan a level, you can help give input on what happens. That implies a lot of other legal things that you need to do. So, for example, if you're putting someone's face in your game, you need to have their permission. The fact that they buy it from you is a good indicator that they're consenting to that, but it's good to have that on paper, because they might, down the line, decide they don't like the picture that's in your game. They might not like the way that you're marketing it. They might not like a platform that it's on, and they might want to pull it. That's a liability that you need to be aware of ahead of time. If they're giving you ideas, if they're giving you input on the game, are they being compensated for that? Who owns the IP? Are they licensing that idea to you to use in your game, or are they giving it to you outright? You better know, because it's going to be a problem later. And the problem is, it's not a problem so much, it's good ideas are complicated. Good ideas have very far-reaching implications, because they imply a lot of areas of law. And one of the difficulties in video game law in particular is that there are so many different aspects that apply to the same content. We've talked a little bit about copyrights, we've talked about trademarks, we haven't even gotten into patents, contract law, the right of publicity. All of these things apply to the same piece of art, and where they cross over and intersect can become very nuanced and very complicated.
Is there like a site where you can maybe like download a boilerplate, I don't know, like form for your backers to say like
The
if
image
you're-
release form kind of
yeah,
thing?
or even like idea release form, right? You're contributing to the game, but first we want you to sign a release or some type.
Sure. Search engines are your friend. I always, and I won't say which one, but I always say that the problem with forums is that they're not specific. As versatile as they are, they're not specific to your own circumstances, and they leave out a lot. They include things that are irrelevant as often as they include things that are. So it can become very difficult. So, like, yes, of course, there's forums out there that, for basic things like non-disclosure agreements, for waivers, for, even employment contracts. But you always want to have someone who's qualified, be they a lawyer or an accountant, cross-check and reference all of your documents that you're using, because you don't want to use a boilerplate form and without knowing, sign away your entire game to someone by accident.